The states with the highest unwanted pregnancy or unfortunate pregnancy, where it's not planned, desired, or wanted, are in states that teach abstinence only. Republican states, Christian counties. Because educated people, Democrats, people who want people educated at any age, won't choose abstinence-only education. Because it doesn't work. I mean, you Google, has abstinence-only sex education ever lowered pregnancy, STIs, and gave people a better quality life? Not one case, study, research, experiment will prove, yes, it did give them a better quality life. No. If you care about somebody, you educate them. You provide them resources. You arm them with ways to protect their health. And as long as you believe you have the right to remove women's choice, you are responsible for people dying. And yes, it is a genocide. How many doctors are so afraid to operate on a woman who's an inch from death because they're afraid of being put in prison because of an abortion ban? I watched a movie, I forget which one, but there was a man who was discussing healthcare with his insurance agent. And the patient, who was suffering from cancer, realized what's wrong with our healthcare, what's wrong with the people in charge in our country. We got it all ass backwards here. Healthcare should be decided between doctors and patients. But now I know healthcare is decided by insurance companies. If an abortion is the best decision to keep the mother alive, happy, and able to exist, then abortion should be the right choice. If a child is actively killing their mother due to a miscarriage, any kind of medical issue where there's a chance where the mother has an equal or greater chance of dying, doctors should be able to provide health care that is best for their patient. And if there are laws that treat women's lives like a flip of a coin, is disgusting. Any law that risks the life of a woman for any reason without her consent is a human rights violation. It's dehumanizing. And we need to vote those people out of office. We need to vote people in that protect women's rights. Because if the woman's rights and her body aren't protected, you just lowered her ability to live and the child's ability to live. A society that has the highest chance of pregnant mother and child survival is in places where abortion is legal, according to Johns Hopkins Hospital. If men can walk in at any time and get a surgery, no questions asked, because it's something he wants and he's in good mental health. If a woman goes in for the same thing, but it's different, she has to, on average, go to 7+ doctors before somebody, if or never, does something. Women receive so much personal and professional criticism for choosing to remove the chance of motherhood. Women almost give up trying to protect their mental and reproductive health because no one else will. Women have to advocate for themselves because everyone else seems to be incapable or unwilling to advocate for them. Women need to feel safe. Women need to have options. Women need to have agency, sovereignty, and autonomy. We should live in a country where a woman can get an abortion for any reason, even up to the day she delivers a child. You don't have to like it, you don't have to support it, and you don't have to applaud her for doing it. But if we lived in an ideal world in America where women were treated as highly and sensitively as they do men's reproduction, women could get an abortion for any reason, no questions asked. If it's good for her as well as for the child, the doctor should do it. If the child she has a rare disorder where she feels it's more merciful to have an abortion than have the child born, die, or born, live, and die very quickly, that decision should be respected by the doctor. If the woman wants to have surgery so she is sterile and cannot have any more children, that decision should be respected. Women would not be told to wait a while because you will change your mind. That's disrespectful and dehumanizing. Women would be able to have their opinions respected by doctors. They wouldn't have to prove or advocate for themselves. They would be respected. They would go in and immediately be told, you have a heart condition. And she wouldn't go home thinking it's nothing when it's everything, because she's not a man. And as long as women vote against their best interests, against their rights, and they vote people into office anywhere that has as much contempt for female rights as they do for femininity, we will never progress forward and stay progressive. America's, I think, the only world power that has never elected a female president. We've had at least one female vice president, and we've had a few people run for president or vice president that were women. But we've never had a female president because in America, the majority of people believe they would rather have anyone, any man, regardless of their lack of integrity, their sexual misconduct history, their general lack of empathy, anyone is better than a woman. And until we completely tear away and ignore and don't tolerate that kind of thinking, we will never be ruled by a woman. I grew up in the Baptist church, and the churches I went to, extreme fundamentalist churches, they believed it was a judgment from God for a woman to be in charge. That's the level of contempt they have for women. The idea that to hear a woman speak her mind, lead a group of people, or share her opinion is a judgment from God. That they have to endure her says all you need to know about how religion views women. And if you were lucky enough to grow up in an atheistic home or a liberal form of religion or Christianity, you are blessed. But a lot of people in America aren't that lucky or blessed. And the people, religious people who support Trump, and they're not all MAGAs, but the stereotypical person who supports Trump has little empathy toward women. I've never seen such contempt for women. And I'm a historian. We haven't seen the level of contempt Trump's supporters have for women since before women got the right to vote. except for the suffragette movement of from the late 1800s to 1920, I haven't seen such a level of contempt from white cis men until now. And as long as we view femininity as something to use and never emulate, we will always be a subpar country. America's not the greatest nation. And there is no time to go back to when everyone was equal. You can't make America great if it was never great to begin with. It was only ever great for people who look like Trump. If you're a woman, African American, Hispanic, Latino, Asian, all the different kinds and groups of people, especially the LGBTQIA group, if you're not a cis straight man, America has never been great and equal for you. And anyone who believes that there was a time when everyone was equal needs to go back and read history. All men are created equal doesn't exist in America. You look how people are paid in this country. Women aren't even paid 80 cents on the dollar for what white cis men are paid. Men are not equal in this country. They don't have equal opportunity. The only way non-white people gain white privilege is if they're wealthy, kind of like Diddy, or famous actors like Samuel L. Jackson. You can't expect a country to be great if they're so intimidated by equality they scrub rainbows off of Orlando's streets. If everyone was equal and tolerant of each other, we would not have hate crimes. Religions wouldn't treat women like they're good for nothing but labor. We need to change the way we see each other. And when my family looks at me and says, we don't have white privilege, we'll never resolve the issues. Women deserve a better type of day-to-day life. And if we don't treat mothers with respect and trust that what choices they're making is good for them, we have no business bringing children into a world that already treats their mothers like crap. Women suffer from depression, shame, isolation, mental illness. Sometimes they live their whole life without telling their family they've had an abortion. Or sometimes they leave a relationship because their partner won't tolerate them having a pregnancy. Churches, I've been to so many denominations and churches. None of the churches I ever went to ever discussed abortion. Never discussed the positive or negative issues associated with abortion. Because they care more about a child than they do about the mother. And if you can't treat an existing human being with respect, you have no business bringing another person into the world. Hopefully someday we learn to treat women, minorities, and vulnerable people with as much respect as we do the people we elect into the White House. And until we elect a first woman president, a first Asian president, a first Latino American president, or even better, the first trans president. I mean, is there a group of people more persecuted in America than the trans community, especially this last week with that shooting? A lot of people aren't saying nice things about trans people, especially in Florida. I used to live there. We don't talk enough how society harms women. People are taught to stand on the corner next to Planned Parenthood and scream obscenities at women who's only at fault for doing something that's entirely natural that resulted in pregnancy. Why aren't we standing next to the offices of the men who got them pregnant? Because according to my statistics, only 1 out of 3 straight cis men bring a condom to any form of sexual activity. Men actually talk cis straight women out of using contraceptives or coerce and manipulate them out of doing it. We need to hold men more accountable than women because we live in a culture that says men lead all the time. Of course, I always make the joke, men want to be in charge as long as they don't need to take accountability. Because the second men need to take accountability, they don't want to be in charge no more. Because it's always the woman's fault until the woman's in charge. I should put that on a t-shirt. Women deserve to know and be instructed by professionals. We need to make it illegal for churches and political groups to set up healthcare areas near abortion clinics to lure people away using equipment and doing things they're not licensed to do. They get away with it saying they're a non-profit. But if anybody who wasn't a religion tried to give healthcare without a license, it would be a felony. And a lot of these places that teach people without a business license or a legitimate state or federal medical license is giving people unfactual information. And groups of political parties that say that children and family are so important, but then try to strip away food stamps, Medicaid, CPS funding, doesn't care about kids because we have a pretty good idea who they care about. And the only people who really care about your child is you. You vote Republican. I mean, you Google what Republicans support. They want to lower spending. In translation, strip the programs. And the programs don't help the rich. They help the poor, the single mothers, the below poverty line people. So yes, Republicans do lower spending, but they're excluding people who really do need the help. And as long as you vote Republican, you're not helping women's rights. You're not helping the poverty line. You're not helping the vulnerable. You're voting for people that believe a white man should always be in charge and that women are the property of men. Your body, my choice is how these Republican leaders think and how they vote. They will do everything they can to work against women's rights. If it doesn't benefit a white, cis, straight man, they're not going to vote for it. And whatever benefits those kinds of people is not going to be benefiting us. And there are a lot of nice Republican conservatives out there. I was one for 30 years. But if you support and are a member of a group that is known for hate speech against queer people, limiting and opposing women's rights, speaking out against raising the marriage limit, the marriage age limit, who want to make everything about a religion. You could be the nicest person and be in a hate group that says a lot about you, but I've known a lot of nice people that were Baptists and probably, even though they were nice people, they still supported and voted against every right of every group possible. The only thing they didn't vote against is white privilege. And it really doesn't ever improve. The only time poverty-stricken people, single mothers, and people who really do need funding and help, you only get those rights protected when you vote Democratic, independent, anything that is not conservative. Because racism usually cloaks itself in patriotism, conservative values, family values, and protect the kids. You can't claim you protect the kids and support Trump, who in turn is a sex offender, who was friends with Epstein. It doesn't wash. And we have leaders in this country that will die keeping women from having rights. They spend every moment of their day making sure women don't have health care. And if what you ban causes an increase of deaths, that is a major symptom of maybe we shouldn't have done this. But it's not about saving life. It's about blessed be the fruit, if you've read The Handmaid's Tale. And not much is going to change until we elect people who aren't conservative, who aren't racist, who don't want white privilege to continue. You can say, I hate white privilege, I hate what white people are doing, but if you go into the voting booth and you select people who have no intention of upholding equality for everyone, even groups that you may not support, understand, or like, that makes you a hypocrite. And it makes you something much worse. That's a hate group. And maybe in 3.5 years, hopefully, I don't think people will ever learn, because we've done it 47 times and we haven't learned. Maybe we'll get lucky and this administration will mess up so bad, no one will even want to hear the Republican heartbeat or pulse for 8 years. Kind of like how Bush, we got so sick of Bush, we didn't want to hear nothing from Republicans for 8 years. We can hope. We can hope that we have a solid 8 years starting in 2029. Solid 8 years of liberal freedom. Liberal thinking means freedom for everyone, not just for women.